Welcome to the Sisterhood of Sweat. I'm here today with Tim James. Tim is one of those guys that will leave you feeling younger and more energetic just by hearing him speak. His passion flows out of him like a fresh waterfall in a dry desert. He's turning 49, but feels like he's 18 with more energy. What's his secret? After suffering from multiple health issues, including rectal bleeding, two separate skin issues, chronic acid indigestion, and surgery to remove one of his organs due to serious digestive issues, Tim knew something had to change. But it was only after watching his closest ones die of cancer and the untimely death of his younger brother that he finally decided to take action. Tim's journey led him to a shocking discovery, which helped his friend beat cancer and transform every area of his life. Feeling charged with a duty to help others, he started sharing his knowledge with anyone that would listen. This led him to producing his own chemical-free food products. Chemical Free Body was born. Tim's inbox is constantly flooded with people singing and dancing about how his products have given them a life they couldn't believe was possible. His story will have you laughing, crying, and gasping. But most importantly, he will give you the recipe to a longer, happier, and healthier life. Today's guest will definitely leave you inspired to better your health. We talked about detoxing every aspect of your body and all of the things that we could do to better our health. Tim goes in detail about everything, all the way to the air you breathe, the water that you're drinking, the food that you're eating, the supplements you're taking, and more. He just had so much energy. It was so entertaining and just inspiring as heck. And today he talked about colonics, why you want them, how they can leave you with brain clarity, leaving the brain fog behind, giving you more energy than you ever dreamed. He talked about digestion, how important it is, how to go about getting better digestion, and why you want it. Tim also went into detoxing the entire body, why it's so important, and the products that he uses to have a safe detox without stripping your gut of all of its natural flora and bacteria. And he just went into so many elements of health, and this was just so good. It was a real different take on things that I've heard before, but I felt like it was a lot more in depth for all of you people that geek out on my health podcasts and like totally nerd out on learning everything you can about being the best version of yourself so you can live healthy into your 40s, 50s, 60s. This is definitely for you, and for you 30-year-olds that think, oh gosh, you're invincible and that your life is infinite. This is also for you so that you can live a healthy, fulfilled, quality life. So without further ado, we're going to dive into this episode with Tim James. I'm so excited to have the health hero, Tim James, on the Sisterhood of Sweat today. Welcome.
Linda, thanks for having me. I appreciate you having me on your show today.
How did you get a name, Health Hero? What did you do to get that claim to fame?
Well, back in 2015, I did a vision board, and I was just going through magazines looking for images, and there was a picture of this dad, and he had like a superhero costume on, like Halloween, and he was in the background, and his little daughter was up front, and she was running with this big smile on her face, and she had on a superhero outfit with a cape, and the cape was kind of flying behind her, and and so there was that. Okay, but I growing up, I was always like, when Superman came out, I was all over that, or the Jedi. There's just something cool about like having the like superpowers, right? So I was trying to think of a name for like the people that kind of followed me and stuff. Like, you know, if you got, I don't know if you followed Russell Brunson or not, but he's a marketing guy, and he had, you know, he
I
called him.
subscribe to his ClickFunnels.
Right. So he called his group was called Funnel Hackers. So they were coming in and hacking funnels, which is just like a way to drive online business and sales and stuff like that.
Yeah, I use that.
So, and I was like, well, what's my funnel hackers going to be? And I was coming up with stuff, and then finally I was downtown with a friend, and I was like, yeah, we're all health heroes. It just came to me. I actually started crying when it happened. I'm like, yo, that's it. It's health heroes. I'm like, I always loved hero stuff. I always like being the underdog myself. And I'm like, that's it, because we are all truly health heroes, whether we're living that lifestyle or not, but we have that potential. And what I've seen is like, you know, for me, being lost and confused in my health for, you know, 37 years, thinking I know what I did, knew what I knew, but obviously I got really sick and had lots of health issues, but we can talk about that. But when I regained my health, I started giving other people around me permission slips for them to heal too. So it's kind of like I became this candle that became lit in health, and I was just starting to go around and light other people's candles, right? So, and then I was thinking about it, like I had this one guy, like he called me up just out of nowhere. It was like a customer service call, because we're a small company. I still sometimes I'll answer customer service calls, or I do outreach. And he said, Tim, I was so tired from work. I had to stimulate myself in the morning with coffee and energy drinks all day long. And when I come home, he's like, I got a 6-year-old boy, and I didn't have enough energy to play catch with him in the backyard, like literally.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that's sad. And then he goes, but I've been using your products now for like, you know, 4, 5, 6 months or something. And he's like, I got to tell you, I am off coffee. I'm off the energy drinks. And I come home, and I was out back playing catch and playing baseball with my son for 2 hours. And then like him and I were like crying about this, because it's like, you know, I had 2 boys and I raised them, and, you know, I couldn't imagine like not having enough energy to go out and have fun with your kid. Right. And then the kid's like, Dad, like, come on and play with me. And it's like, well, I'll do that later, and we'll get together later. And I know it kind of reminds me of that. There's that song.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, where the guy's like,
is it
little
Cats
boy,
in the Cradle?
Yeah, Cats in the Cradle and the Silver Spoon, Little Boy Blue and Man in the Moon. And it's like, yeah, he grew up just like me, and he never, the son never had, the dad never
Yeah,
had
that
time
time
for
never
his son.
comes. You got to grab it and seize it
Never
while
had
it's
time.
here.
So it's like, when you do that, if I can help inspire a mom or a dad to get their health back so they can at least have the energy to play with their kids, huge win, because I know other things are going to improve. If they improve their health, not only is the relationship and the time with their children and grandchildren going to improve, but their relationship's going to improve. Most likely, there'll be an opening to a spiritual practice that it was there, but it was clouded. And it was, your brain was clouded, your body was clouded, and you'll start wondering, and it'll open you up to that. And your career choices can get better. A lot of people that we work with change careers. We had a CPA out of New York, and he called me and said, look, dude, he goes, been following you for a couple of years now. He goes, I want to let you know I'm walking away from my CPA practice now. I'm now a meditation breathwork expert, and now I'm leading classes and doing this kind of stuff. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. And not to say that, I mean, he could have stayed being a CPA if that's what his highest excitement was.
Super cool.
But by him getting his health back, he wanted to, like me, go share it with other people and work on the spiritual practice. So, and I think that's what's happening right now. There's a big raise of consciousness. But I do have to say that, because I just did an episode called Illuminating Consciousness.
Okay.
Because our consciousness is already there. It's just clouded, right? We just kind of got to brush the cobwebs out of the way. And one way we do that, so we can see it and feel it, is to clean up the body and clean up the mind, right? So that we can actually realize our true consciousness.
Because most people are just really plugged into other people's agenda, or like your boss wants you to do this, and stay over. And he's, you know, maybe you've got somebody in your life that you have these high expectations, but they're not necessarily what drives you, lights you up inside. And it's not like your God-given purpose. You're just like plugged into the treadmill of life. And that's why we lose our clarity, because we're just going like full speed ahead. like this guy was probably driving himself so hard. No wonder he had no energy to play with his kid. Because also, if you're doing something that doesn't make you very happy and it's sucking the life out of you, you aren't going to have energy because it's energy draining. So I love that you said that. I am having a Heroes of Health series. So I'm going to have you back on for that. And I
That'd be
love,
cool.
yeah, I love the whole health hero. I love the name. I love what you're about. How did you get into this? Like, you had an illness, and I just really want you to share your backstory with the audience, because I think that's very intriguing, how you started this whole supplement company out of something that almost was, you know, horrific.
Awesome. Yeah. So just to give my backstory, I grew up in Eastern Oregon on a small cattle and hay farm. So I grew up totally redneck. I was hunting and fishing, like shooting everything, fishing, catching everything. That's just the way of life. That's what it was, right? So we had Hereford cattle and doing all that stuff. And my best friend was like a rodeo star, so we were riding horses and roping all the time. But when I was like 6, I made a decision that I was going to go play baseball instead of doing rodeo, which was probably a good decision because my friends like got a couple fingers took off from rodeo. I mean, and I have another friend that died. He broke his neck as a bareback rider. So it's not as it's I mean, I guess I got stepped on a few times with some cleats in baseball, but I didn't break my neck. So anyway, I was an athlete for 30 years, played baseball at a high level. So I was really into health. And if somebody told me I could do something to have an advantage in competition, I would do it. Right. So they were like, dude, you got to drink these protein powders. I'm like, well, what is it? You put soy protein in and peanut butter and oats and milk, and you blend it up and you eat that, and it's going to give you bigger muscles. So we did. My senior year, we started doing that stuff. I had no idea what whey protein and all that stuff that was in there. So, but what was building my muscles was that I was in the gym doing weight resistance exercise consistently. Yeah, you need the building blocks, but I was doing the work to build the muscle, and I was getting sleep. Right. So, but fast forward, now I'm 37 years old. I got a wife. I got a couple kids. I'm a financial advisor. I'm running around to 3 offices, stressed out. I gained 42 pounds of disease causing fat, literally. I had acid reflux 24/7. I was eating Tums and Rolaids like they're going out of style. And it got worse. Then I started for 2.5 years. I was bleeding rectally every time I pooped. Well, the shirt I have on today says "Ingredients Matter" with our company logo on it, but I have another one that says
Love
"Love when."
that. I love that.
Other one that says "Love when you poop," because yeah, because for me it was a very painful process. So on a scale of 1 to 10, it was about a 6 or a 7 on the pain scale, followed by blood. And as a guy, I just stick my head in the sand, like, oh, I hope that goes away. Now I did go to the doctor. Doctors wanted me to get on Prilosec for the acid reflux stuff, and then they recommended some other drugs for the rectal bleeding. But one of the side effects for the rectal bleeding deal was rectal bleeding. And I was like, I never did take them. I never even filled the prescriptions out more than half the time. I did fulfill them a couple times, but I read them. I look at all this paperwork. I'm like, I'm not eating this stuff. You know what I mean? And I wasn't doing anything. So I tried. I tried high fat, low fat, high carb, low carb, high protein, low protein, 5 meals a day. I actually tried juicing at one point in time, but I was doing like just apples and beets and carrots, which is just a lot of sugar. And I didn't lose any weight, so I'm like, hell with it. So in a month or two, my juicer's in the cupboard. I never used it again, even though it sounded promising. And all these other people were getting results, but I
I
didn't know.
think a lot of people are identifying with what you're saying right now. So many people will try something and then like, well, it's not working, and move on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was making that juice every day, and I got a hit because there was all that sugar in there. But I learned later that you can't have that much sugar without the fiber and all this stuff. So anyway, so what ends up happening? I'm on a plane flight down to Peru. Me and my wife are going down for this vacation we planned with her father, and she's from Lima. Her dad was a medical doctor that run one of the biggest clinics in Lima. There's like 18 or 22 million people in that city, so it's a big city, right? And the biggest in Peru. And so we flew north, though, just south of Ecuador into a town called Tumbes. And we're on this private, like 9 hacienda deal with this, it's a resort. And we're out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, nowhere. There's one plane flight a day that flies in and out of there every 12 or 24 hours, something like that. And it's beautiful. It was amazing. And we were out deep sea fishing, and I got sick. And they were like, oh, you got motion sickness. I'm like, no, look, I fish a lot in the Oregon coast. I don't get sick. I fish in Hawaii. nope, this isn't it. And finally her dad like checked me out because he thought it was motion sickness. He's like, oh, we have to get you to a hospital. You need surgery. And we're like, what? I just started my vacation, you know? So now by the time we get back to the boat, off the boat to the place, I'm bent over at a 90-degree angle, walking like a 150-year-old man. Like I'm in pain so bad I can't even stand upright. We get in the car, we zip down to the airport, and I just missed the one plane flight out of there by like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. So he said, look, we can't wait. You can die. So they rented a van, and we drove 6 hours in the middle of the night down this bumpy ass road to the nearest town that had a hospital called Peoria. And I went into the examination room, and all these doctors are pushing on my gut. I'm like, it hurts. And by the way, that was the most miserable experience in my entire life. 6 hours of this bumpy ass road, and every bump was like somebody was punching me or stabbing me with an ice pick in the gut. I was so tired when I got there. I was exhausted. I had no energy. I barely picked me up. And my paper money in my wallet was wet from how much I sweated, just to give you guys an idea, right? And I remember being interviewed on this podcast a few months ago, and this lady was like, oh, you kind of have an idea what childbirth is like now. I was like, well, maybe. Maybe. So if that's what childbirth is like, even more props to you ladies out there, because that's just like wasn't a whole lot of fun. Okay. So, and I didn't get a reward of a child afterwards, right? I just got, so anyway, so in this hospital, in the examination room, there's literally lots of bugs flying around me in the lamp. So we're in like third world country. The equipment and stuff looked like it was from the 50s and 60s. I'm like, this isn't good. So they're all talking Spanish 100 miles an hour. I'm kind of out of it. And he talked him into doping me up, which they did. I took a taxi down to a commercial plane flight, and we flew back to Lima, and he was on the phone prepping the OR, and he had them all ready for me. And I went right in to the OR out of another taxi cab ride. And I spent the rest of my vacation recovering, and I wasn't even completely healed yet. My wife had to wheelchair me back into the States in our plane flights. So I had a couple big takeaways from that. Number one, I was very thankful for the medical community doing what they do best, which is crisis care. But when it comes to chronic illnesses, it's pretty much a fail. I mean, just look around. I mean, it's like putting somebody on pills for the rest of their life. It just doesn't make sense. There's other cultures that have been helping people with natural herbs and stuff for tens of thousands of years, and all of a sudden that's weird. And stuff. Western medicine's been around a couple hundred years. Okay. So anyway, but I thank the doctors and nurses for saving my life. That's where Western medicine shines. But one thing that I learned is that I don't ever want to go into the hospital again, because when that thing goes over your mouth and you get that anesthesia and you go out, you're in somebody else's hands. And what if they had a bad morning or something, or a bad day, and then they're operating on you, or they spit a juju fruit in there, like on Seinfeld. I don't know if you saw that episode when what was his name, Kramer and Jerry were watching an operation. They were fighting over the juju fruits, and one of them went into the cavity of the person they were operating on, but nobody saw it. And then there was a juju fruit inside of him. So I'm just joking, but anyway, you don't know what's going to happen, right? And so that's scary. The big takeaway though was that my poor health doesn't affect just me; it affects everybody else around me. Because not only did I ruin the vacation for myself, but my wife and her dad. So because my health was poor, and it was literally, I would say 50% self-caused because I was making choices, but the other that I shouldn't have. But 50% of it was I could go to a grocery store and people could legally sell me stuff that was destroying my intestinal tract. It's in the store. And later on, when I went to the Hippocrates Health Institute, they actually take you on a field trip to a really, really good health food store, and they show you how 85% of the foods in the good ones are not fit for human consumption. In a good health food store, not talking about the big box chains. So I come back. I tried the 5 meal a day thing, try more stuff. I still want to get healthy, but I'm still lost. And then that's when my friend Charles got diagnosed at age 43 with chronic lymphocytic leukemia. And he asked me to go with him to Hippocrates to live. He's like, look, Tim, I want to see my son Charlie graduate high school. I want to go with him to father-son weekend. Will you go with me? And I said, yeah, whatever you need. Because my aunt had died of melanoma skin cancer and lung cancer. And my grandma had died of glioblastoma brain cancer. And both of them went through horrible stuff. And our family, like my mom took care of my aunt. My mom's like a saint, like taking care of somebody in those situations. It's hard work, and it's a lot of emotional trauma, just dealing with this kind of stuff and watching somebody you love slowly deteriorate and die.
And feel
Right.
like you're helpless. That
Yeah. And the
you
morphine.
feel that, right?
Yeah. And the morphine drips and all that stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
my experience, and I actually, before Charles got diagnosed, a guy on my team who had like an 8-pack abs, like Clay Mahoy, he died of like stomach cancer.
Oh
And he
my
left
gosh.
three little boys behind from ages like 6 to 17. So
Oh
his
my
wife was
gosh.
left with like no dad. Kids were left with no dad, and he had no insurance. So our baseball team, big tough guys, were crying in the church. Then we had to do a fundraiser for him, trying to help
Mm.
out the family. So after that, now my buddy Charles got cancer. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to lose another friend. Because my experience was you get cancer, you're toast, you die. And with his cancer, it was like really bad because it like the white blood cells would stack up in the lymph nodes, and then they have to do surgeries along. It could be 6 months, it could be 16 years, but you slowly die, and you have to do these surgeries. They're hacking at you until you die. They have to keep pulling out these lymph node deals. So anyway, that was like he was scared. You could tell on his face. So I went with him. Okay, now we arrive at the institute. Now it's just like a natural detox clinic. He didn't tell me, by the way, that there was until I was on the plane flight that there was no meat there. It was a plant-based deal. So I was the guy like no meat. Like when he said that, I was scared. I got really scared
Yeah,
because
you're
like
like, oh my gosh.
my whole life was revolved around it. So like whatever, you're here for Charles, Tim. Put your worries aside. They probably got a salad or something. I used to have taco salad bar in high school, but just there wouldn't be the hamburger meat. So besides being freaked out about that, I went, and day one, my acid reflux was gone at the place. By day 3, I was kind of having some detox symptoms, night sweats. I was irritable. I had a metallic taste coming out of my tongue as my body was purging all this stuff, and I wasn't too a happy camper. And then we went to a class called Internal Awareness. This very fit doctor came out. Him and his wife were body fit. They were physique builders. Like they were taking pictures, kind of like is that you back there in the pictures?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so they're like buff like you, and look really good and everything. And he's like, yeah, I haven't had meat in 10 years. And I was like, what? So he kind of blew the whole meat myth thing for me. And I'm not saying for the people listening, you have to stop eating meat. I'm just telling you my story. You know,
Right.
I still have a little meat from time to time. I did go plant-based for 8.5 years
I was gonna
specifically.
ask. Yeah. So you went plant-based for a long time?
Yeah, and then I incorporated meat back in, and then I didn't feel as good, so I took the amounts back down. But now I found a happy medium, so I'm mostly plant-based, and I do a little bit of meat from time to time. So that's just me. Everybody's got to find their balance of what works for them. That's what I always tell people. Like, don't jump into this camp and like you have to do it this way. You know, it's just like find out what works for you. Everybody's different. So anyway, but the most important part was not the meat thing, but this guy said that the average person is carrying around 6 to 12 pounds of impacted fecal material in the colon, and you have to get that stuff out, Tim. If you ever want to be healthy, truly healthy, you have to clean it up.
Yeah.
So it's basically like a car and the engine's all polluted and gummed up. That's us.
Right.
The digestive tract is the driving engine of your health because it's where the absorption of nutrients is taking place and the breakdown of foods. So if your intestinal tract is all messed up, you're not going to have good absorption of nutrition, and it's going to force you to eat more food, therefore getting more calories in. So what we've end up with is like when you have nutrient deficient soil, nutrient deficient food, and it's processed, and your gut's all gummed up, you're never going to get enough nutrients on the cellular level. So your cells are going to send you signals, go eat, and you do, and you keep eating and eating and eating, but you can never satisfy your true need for nutrition on the cellular level. So you're going to become overweight, yet you're malnourished, just like an African child. No different, except you're carrying around all this excess baggage. So the first step is, cleaning up the engine and getting it up. So what they were recommending was a colonic or colon hydrotherapy session. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, I've had it before. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what it was, and if there's any listeners that don't know, it's what it is: colon hydro water therapy, colon hydrotherapy. It's a water therapy. So you literally sit on a tube rectally, and water goes in and out of your colon for an hour gently, and it cleans your colon out. When he explained that, I elbowed Charles. I said, "Look, dude, I came here to help you, but I'm not doing that deal." And the doctor was smart. As convincing as he was, I wasn't going to do it until he showed 4 virtual colonoscopy videos, 3 of unhealthy people and 1 of a healthy person that had been on this Hippocrates lifestyle for about 3 years. The first person was a 24-year-old female with Hashimoto's, a thyroid disorder, and she also had thrush, which is a yeast infection, which is pretty common nowadays because the immune systems of women has dropped and these yeasts come in. So inside of her colon was white and yellow. I was expecting brown. I was expecting brown stuff because it's a waste removal system, but it was white and yellow. I was like, "Oh my God, that looks weird." And then they went to a 65-year-old man that had colon cancer and parasites. And inside his colon was black like tar. There's no brown waste matter. There's black tar and white worms crawling around. And then the doctor looked at us
How
and he said,
disgusting.
yeah, well, it gets worse. So the doctor looked at us and he's like, hey, just so you guys know, he goes, don't think that this parasite deal is a third world affair. Easily over 50% of you have parasites. And I'm not talking about the hookworms, the pinworms, and the tapeworms that you can see in these virtual colonoscopies. And that over half of you are going to see coming out of your stools over the next 3 weeks on this life transformation program. There's also microscopic parasites that live in your blood, fat, and muscle tissue. I've actually seen since then, I've seen open heart surgeries where they're cutting into the heart to start the surgery and pockets of worms just explode.
Oh my gosh. Oh,
from the heart muscle. This isn't humans. I'm not talking about dogs like heartworm. I'm in humans, right? Again, the defenses, the immune system's down. These bugs come in. So anyway, I'm just like, whoa. And then there was a 45-year-old female with breast cancer, and then her gut was jacked up. She had like colitis or Crohn's or diverticulitis or something. I can't remember what it was. Anyway, inside of her colon was black tar, some brown stuff, and didn't look good. Then they went to show us the healthy colon, and this person's colon was like, you could see the lining of the intestine was pink and clean. There's red blood vessels, and there's some brown waste in there. That's what it was supposed to look like, and I got it. So for me, the picture was worth 60,000 words because I got it. It's an inside job.
Yeah.
The people that were unhealthy, they had unhealthy skin. They had health issues. They had cancer. They had Hashimoto's, all this stuff. Their gut was jacked up. So I'm like, oh my God, that's me. I've eaten like these people. No wonder I have psoriasis on both of my elbows and a huge patch of psoriasis on my knee. And I had another skin issue to my shoulder. It's like fat stuff bubbling up, and mental fog, and I gained 42 pounds, and I couldn't even run around a track once. And I considered myself an athlete. Yeah. And an underdog athlete. I always worked harder than everybody. So here I was. And I said, I'm going to change. I said, I'm going to start focusing on my gut. And I signed up for that colon hydrotherapy deal, even though I was scared. I went in the next day. They weighed me. They did the 1 hour. I did the 1 hour deal. They weighed me again. I literally dropped 11 pounds of impacted fecal material in 1 hour session. Now, I thought I dropped 10 pounds in weight, but a lady just recently told me that when you do colon hydrotherapy, your colon absorbs about a pound of water. So I actually dropped 11 pounds. Now, at the time in 2011 when I did this, the record at the Institute, they had over 600,000 people through their door that had done the colon hydrotherapy, or colonic, whatever you want to call it, to clean their gut up, their intestine. And guess what? A woman held the record. She had dropped 27 pounds of disease-causing funk and gunk and junk that was in her 5 to 7 foot colon.
Wow.
Think about that. Now, for any of you that have animals like a dog, how much does your dog weigh? If you have a 27-pound dog, imagine that falling out of your rear end. That's how much disease-causing garbage that she had in there. It was gross, right? It's totally gross. So I did that deal, and a couple days later, I woke up, and I felt like, I'm back, baby. I looked at Charles. We kind of did our morning routine. I said, dude, do you feel as good as I do? He's like, yeah, I feel amazing. And I said, dude, my mental clarity is amazing. I said, I feel like I'm 18 again. I said, my arms are literally tingling with energy, like I'm electric, and I want to go do stuff. And we just finished a workout and all this stuff we were doing. I said, I can't believe, dude, we've discovered like the fountain of youth. Like, this is what everybody's looking for. And look around, dude, all these people that have been working at this place for 10, 20 years, they look 20 years younger than everybody else their age. There was a nurse in her 50s. I thought she was in her mid 30s. She was smoking hot. And it was like, what is going on here? Like, these people looked amazing. The owner and his Dr. Brian and Anna Maria, the guy's like 70 now. He looks like he's 48, right? So success leaves clues. So I'm like, you know what? They taught us all about cellular regeneration. I said, I'm going to do this, and in 7 years, I'm going to be built of new cells, and I'm going to do what they're doing. I feel good. So we came home, and we did that, and within 60 days, I dropped 42 pounds. Charles had dropped 60. I got my skin issues, my eczema, literally my gut issues, or my elbow issues was a gut issue, and by healing my gut, that was gone. The shoulder issue, gone. And 8 months later, that huge patch of eczema had been on my leg for years. Finally, all of it cleared up. I could feel my ribs. And I've been this way for 12 years. And now it's like, I've been duped. Like, I've been told certain things. So I started getting pissed. And I'm like, what else are they not telling me? So I started really going down the rabbit holes with this new vantage point, as I would say, of what's real and what's not. And I started being able to decipher what is true and what's not. Not that I always get it right, but 98% of the time now I'm kind of on the mark, because I'm not pro this or anti that. I try to take like a systems approach. Does it produce results or not for the human body or for a person, whether it's a man or a woman or a child or whatever. And so that's been the approach I've taken for the last, I don't know, 12 years, and it's worked well. And from that, I started teaching classes at my home based on Charles's story. And Charles healed himself of that cancer. I just hung out with him. We played guitars. I mean, no chemo, no surgery, no radiation, totally healed himself. And he saw his son graduate high school, father-son weekend at OHSU, and then his son sold him last year his house. His son became a real estate agent.
Okay.
So that was a great story, and I would tell Charles the story, and then it kind of spread around the Portland area, and then I had over 5,500 people to my home for these detox, nutrition, living food, juicing classes, and what I noticed was that 70% of them were women. So that's when I realized that women are actually smarter than men, because I know what I've learned.
You just now realizing that?
Well, I realized it back in 2012. 2013 is when the epiphany happened, because this one lady was like, I said, "Where's your husband? He was down on the list and he paid for it." She's like, "He's out in the truck. He ain't coming in." And I'm like, "What?" And why not? Because there's no meat here. And I'm like, "That's silly." So I went out and talked to him. I was like, "Dude, you ever had an apple before?" "Well, yeah." "Well, come on in and have an apple." Like, it's like you're not going to die. Like, you're out here, you're not eating anything. I mean, you ever had hummus? We got that in there too. Just come on in. He wouldn't come in. So I'm like, this guy is stubborn as I was. He had his head buried in the sand, right? So women are kind of the ones that run the household, and they kind of keep the husband healthy, themselves healthy, the kids healthy, hopefully. And so that's what I learned. I learned women are smarter than men, especially when it comes to, health. So I'm really glad to be on this podcast, because I know you got a lot of ladies listening.
Oh, for sure, for sure. When you're talking about these colonics, I remember another competitor and I, right before Fitness Universe, we went and we were like, I wonder if it'll make our stomach flatter. We went and got a colonic, and it did. We both did really well, but like the health benefits are amazing. And I think most people don't realize how much that they could get out of just getting a colonic periodically. Now, I checked out good both times I've had a colonic. No, none of what you were describing was floating by, but you do see it float by in the window.
Oh yeah, for sure. And what's interesting is, like, if people, the colon hydrotherapy is only going to clean out the colon. It's about 5 to 7 feet long. Between the colon and the small intestine, the colon's also called the large intestine. Between the small and large intestine it's a valve called the ileocecal valve, and it's a one-way valve. So food from the small intestine, then when it's done, then it goes into the large intestine to get finished off, get the nutrients, whatever's left, water out of it, and then exits, right? It's a one-way valve. So when you're doing a colon hydrotherapy session, it's not going to go up and clean the small intestine, but the body is super intelligent. So what's happened is not only do people have this 6 to 12 pounds of funk and gunk and junk piled up in the colon, but a lot of times people have this black, brown, viscous mucoid plaque that's built up in the small intestine. It's like 22 feet long, right? And what'll happen is, after they get 1 or 2 or 3 colon hydrotherapy sessions, they'll see all this black phone cord-like substance come out. That's that black, viscous mucoid plaque. I think it's my opinion, it's a body's response, natural response, to protect it from undigested food particles and microbes and toxins.
I was going to say they're not digesting.
To go into the bloodstream, because what's happening is, I had leaky gut syndrome, and well over 90% of people do at some level.
Yeah.
So what that means is from the amount of pollution in our life today, in the air and the water and the food we eat, chemicals and pesticides and fungicides and herbicides and glyphosate and all this crap, automobile exhaust, jet fuel, all these things, and stress, these microscopic tears have happened in our intestinal lining, and then these undigested food particles and microbes can get in there, and they're wreaking havoc, and they might show up as Hashimoto's, or they might show up as breast cancer or whatever. Right? So that black viscous plaque, I think, is our body's response to try to protect and house this toxic crap so it doesn't go through those holes. So if we can clean it up and then heal ourselves by, stop putting in toxins and eat foods that are healing, we can heal up our digestive tract. And then boom, guess what? Our skin heals up on the outside, our energy comes back, and all that stuff. So I've been very gut focused for the last 12 years, internally focused. It's like one of my best friends are my intestinal villi. I take really good care of them, and I treat them. They're my besties, because if I take care of those little hair-like structures lining the intestinal tract all the way through me, they're going to take care of me, right? Because they're responsible for moving food and waste matter through you and out, and they're also responsible for pulling the nutrients in through the intestinal lining into the bloodstream. So we definitely don't want to hamper them. We want to give them the best environment possible for absorption of nutrients. We don't want fermentation. And unfortunately, most of us are fermenting our food. There's two ways to get food out of you. You either digest it and absorb it, or you ferment it and it exits. So most people like me, when I was sick, my foods were fermenting because I was eating foods in the wrong combinations, eating at the wrong times, stuff like that. So I learned a lot about all that, and it works. And I've got really good skin now, and I get comments on it all the time. In fact, last weekend there was a couple, and they just couldn't stop talking about my skin. I actually don't usually get self-conscious, but after a while I was like, dude, like, okay, my skin's awesome. I get it. Like, it's like, but everybody's like, look at Tim's skin. He's almost 50. And it's like, I was like, well, you could have that too. You just got to learn some of these strategies, get back to nature.
So when you're talking about digestion and you're talking about your intestines and everything, how important would you say then having a good digestive supplement is? Because over the age of 40, we're not really making the HCl, the hydrochloric acid, the way we used to, which would kill off a lot of pathogens if we had enough of it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Here's the thing is, like, if we didn't live in a stressed out, polluted world and a deficient world, we wouldn't need to be really talking about any of this stuff. We wouldn't have to talk about colonics. We wouldn't have to talk about any supplementation. We would be getting the food, like Hippocrates said, the food would be thy medicine. And we would, if you look back, people used to consume over 300 types of different foods and herbs from all different sources during a year. Now it's about 52. We eat 52 of the same foods over and over and over again. And what's the quality of them? Well, you're getting them at the store. They've been shipped on average 2 to 4 weeks. A lot of them are sprayed with pesticides, fungicides, herbicides, larvicides. Some of them are genetically modified, so they've been spliced and weirded out, and they don't produce glutathione anymore. They're producing formaldehyde. So if you're eating GMO foods, hear me out. You're embalming yourself. So you're going to the
before your time.
Yeah, so it's like they're little morticians every time you have a bite of them, right? They're and carpet's doing it too. Synthetic carpets are actually off-gassing formaldehyde. That's why, to have a chemical-free body, which we think is the focus, you want to look at your body as a system and make sure you have good quality air and water. But back to your question. So digestive health, yeah, it's important. One of our main products is called Gut Detox. And it's an ancient Ayurvedic formula. It's based on 10,000 years of system science. So this is engineering principles in the biological field. This isn't like, oh, we're going to try this out and see if it works. It's like engineers cannot make mistakes or people die. Think about it. Engineers build planes. If they mess up, people die. If engineers build a bridge,
married to an engineer, so I totally relate to what you're saying.
Okay, awesome. Right. So when you take an engineering systems approach, which this is very, very important for people to understand and why our products work so well, because our formulator was trained under this stuff. So I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai, but he is one of the top minds out there. He's got 4 degrees from MIT, and afterwards, people are like, what are you doing? Because he took a Fulbright scholarship and he went over to India to see why the medicines over there were working so well and try to bring Western and Eastern Asian medicines together and try to figure it out. And he basically created the Rosetta Stone of it. So what he found out is that Ayurvedic traditional medicine was steeped in engineering system science. So for your engineer husband, he'll know about input, output, transport, conversion, storage, right? You've probably heard those terms before, right?
Oh yeah. And then the other one that you said earlier, if I don't do my job right, people die.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So they can't make mistakes and they can't hide, oh, I'll do it better next time. So they cannot make a mistake, right? So when you look at what Dr. Shiva found out, which is karma and karma fall, karma is not like, oh, if I do good, then the world's going to bring it back to me. That's actually an improper definition of karma that's taken off and run for some reason. Karma means input. Karma fall, PHAL, means output. And in the middle, transport, conversion, and storage is vata, pitta, kapha. It's just a different language. But when somebody like me or you hears it, we probably think, oh, that's woo-woo BS. It's not. So when you look at Ayurvedic system science and this biological engineering they've done for 10,000 years, that's what the whole thing's based on. And the northern region's Ayurveda, and the southern healers were Siddhar healers. Dr. Shiva's grandma was a Siddhar healer. She worked 14 hours, 16 hours a day in the rice field 6 days a week. And then one day a week, she had a line of 20, 30 people out her hut. And she healed them by mixing up herbs, doing massage, teaching them yoga postures to go home, teaching them how to reduce their stress. And he saw his grandma heal people one after another. Well, his grandmother helped people heal themselves. That's what she did. She got them out of their own way. So nobody can heal anybody. But one after another. So he knew it worked. He knew it wasn't BS because he lived it. And so he created that, like I said, the Rosetta Stone, bringing it together so that people could actually, and he actually taught a class at MIT where he'd have all the, granola, yoga people and the naturopaths on one side and all the MDs on the other, and they didn't like each other, but he brought them together and they're like, oh, we're all talking the same language now. Right now they understand it. They understand that Vata Pitta Kapha is transport, conversion, and storage. And most doctors and MDs, he found out, they didn't even know what engineering standpoints of the systems approach are. So anyway, my doctor trained under a guy who was one of the top healers in Ayurveda, and that guy had like a bunch of herbal clinics, and they were very wealthy, and he would speak at like the hospitals and at the universities at the highest levels. And he walked up to him and said, hey, will you train me? And he's like, yes, I will. So my formulator walked away from Cornell University as a young man saying, this is not medicine. Then he walked away from naturopathic medicine. He flew to India and found this guy, and then the guy trained him. Since then, he got trained in Western herbology and also Chinese herbology, created a clinic for 10 years seeing patients, and then walked away from it to create formulas because he figured that would be better to serve the world. And now he's one of the top supplement consultants in the supplement industry. But the cool thing is what he said is that I'm one of the few companies at all that allows him to make a formula and not change it. Because a lot of times they'll take a formula and then they'll weaken it, change it, put in synthetics, do a blend. They just mess with it. I let him make it, and then we're done. It's just good because I know it's based on 10,000 years of system science. So that's a big story to tell you that gut detox formula is a very safe, gentle formula that's been used for thousands of years to help people gently micro cleanse the intestinal villi, those hair-like structures, but it doesn't kill the good bacteria like a lot of magnesium
That's
supplements.
really key because a lot of the things strip you of all your good bacteria in your gut.
Yeah, and I used to do it because I knew that cleaning the thing was step one, and I used to use a magnesium supplement to clean people out. But Dr. Treadway, he's like, dude, he goes, that's a little rough on people. He's like, you should probably use this. And I was like, he told me all about it. I was like, wow, that probably costs so much. Nobody could be able to afford it. He's like, no, you can probably sell it for like $47 or something like that. And that's what we do. So we have that formula. I've been taking it for 8 years. He's been taking it for like 42 years. So it didn't matter, he said, what people came in for at those clinics. That product, everybody was put on that product. And it wasn't called gut detox. We call it that just because it targets people, because that's one of the things it does. But it really balances the body. It's a body balancer. That's what it does. But it also, you can take double the amount for 15 days, and you can drop that 6 to 12 pounds of impacted fecal material. And then after that, you just take 3 a day for maintenance, because nobody eats perfect and toxins are everywhere. So we're always repolluting. By taking this, it's your daily insurance policy to keep your small and large intestine and those villi clean so they can perform their duties of the day.
So how important would you tell everyone it is to be detoxing their body on a regular basis?
Well, we are the home of the daily detox. We take 20,000 breaths a day, Linda. And, what's the quality of that air? That's a good question. And without air, you're dead in 4 to 7 minutes. So the way I look at things is the body as a system. How long can I live without something? Well, without oxygen, I'm dead in 4 to 7 minutes, and so are you and all of our listeners. So oxygen's our number one nutrient. We take 20,000 breaths a day. What's the quality of that input? I have a air purification system right there, and it's going 24/7. You should at least do this, especially in your rooms and your children when they're sleeping. If you don't have the money for one of these, they're about $855, and they'll last you like five years. And then you just replace the core deal. You at least should crack your windows at night because your home is polluted at least 100 times more than downtown LA on a smoggiest day, because people don't think about it. You got the carpet off gassing formaldehydes, and you got the paint. Like when women and men have new babies, it's like, oh my God, we're having a baby girl. They get the deal, and they look and say, oh, it's a baby boy. Look. Then they go paint the room pink or blue. Baby comes home, and for the next 4.5 years, that paint's curing, and they're polluting their beautiful child and destroying the immune system of that child with no comprehension of it. Nobody would have even thought of that. And then they're like, oh, now I'm going to get these paints that have no VOCs. Well, you better check again. So the only place that I know of that you can get paints that are really good it's thegreendesignCenter.com. This guy was the
Mm,
original
okay.
green dude, and they have truly non-toxic paints. So if you're going to paint your child's room, so your home's polluted, that's my point. Crack your freaking windows at night and get some fresh in there, and even better, do that and get air purification systems installed in your house, and watch how your health improves, and watch how your mental clarity comes back. Oxygen, the number one nutrient. Number two, water. Without water, you're dead in 11 days. So water is kind of important. What's your body mostly made of? Water. So if that's a major input into this system, and we want to be an intelligent system and not a dumb system, then we have to control that input. And city tap water is not going to work. Drinking water out of a plastic bottle is not going to work. Drinking water that's purified out of a big plastic container at work is not going to work. It might be better than the tap water, but the microplastics from in the plastic bottles off-gassing in from clothing, it's killing people. And it's for women, ovarian cysts, uterine cysts, breast cancer. I believe it contributes to all of these things because they're estrogen mimickers. So dang it, we need clean water. And the only way to do that today is you have to triple purify your drinking water. And if you're on city tap water, it has to be restructured because the high pressure pipes, they kind of coagulate the water molecules. So you'll drink a lot of water, but it won't absorb. And so I had a gal, her name's Danusha.
Okay.
I was triple purifying my water for 8.5 years, telling everybody drink half your body weight in liquid ounces daily and all this stuff. And she's like, Tim, you got to get this machine. I'm like, no, I don't need it. It's an alkalizer. I've got triple purified water. That's why she wouldn't leave me alone. So she put me on the phone with this expert. And then I'm usually open-minded. I don't know what my problem was. But then he's like, Tim, just go drink the effing water. And I was like, okay. So I went over to Danusha. She hands me a quart of this water and I drank it. It's restructured, right? And she's now, here, put a little salt under your tongue. Now, in 15 minutes, I'm going to have you drink another quart. Most people, I only do 1 quart because it'll start a detox effect because this water's so powerful, but I know how clean you are. So I drank another one, and then she's like, let's just do it. I'm going to go for a 3rd quart. I was like, I don't know if I can do a 3rd one, But 24 minutes into that process, 6 minutes before I took that 3rd quart, my brain went on. My arms started tingling again, like that experience at Hippocrates, except it was like triple that. And I was like, holy crap, this is bringing back memories to 2011. And this was like 2018 when this happened.
Okay.
I was like, holy crap. I was like, give me that
Yeah.
other water. And I drank it. And I was like, thank you so much. And I went and I scrapped my whole talk in my group coaching, whatever I was going to talk about. I just talked about this water. I called her up and I bought it. So if anybody wants to get their water right, you can get a hold of Danusha. I used to send them to her email, but then we get all these support emails. So we actually built a landing page for her. It's mypurifiedwater.com, and you can book a free consult with Danusha at mypurifiedwater.com, and she'll help you get your water right. So anyway, water's a big input. What about sleep? Without sleep, we're dead in 11 days. So sleep is just as important in my world as water. What help?
Totally
You gotta have good quality air. The room has to be completely dark. You got to shut off the EMFs and get all that crap out of there, and have a good quality mattress. And there's all these different protocols that we teach people to get good quality sleep and hack their sleep. And the temperature's got to be right. We could even go to weighted blankets. There's all these different things. I've been hacking my sleep for a long time. When you get really good sleep, the weight falls off. When you get really good sleep, your immune system runs like a top. Sleep is it's a tie for the silver medal. It's just as important as freaking water. So air, water, and sleep, that's like the little trifecta up top. And then after that, food. You can live without food for a couple months, but your food should be clean and fresh. We have a God-given right to eat clean, fresh food. That's it. If food that's been pesticide-ridden, sprayed, GMO'd, all that crap, and then they spray it with stuff and ship it, on average 1,500 to 2,500 miles, what's the quality of that food? Probably not that good, right? But, I guess it's probably better than a TV dinner. But it's gonna be deficient in nutrients. So again, you're gonna be starving. Even for the folks that are going organic and the food tastes way better, it's still not like getting a tomato out of your aunt's garden versus an organic tomato in the store. It's day and night. It is freaking day and night because it's picked fresh. Hear me out on this. Every single creature on this planet eats a 100% raw living diet. They pick their food and they eat it on the spot, or they kill their food and they eat it on the spot. We're the only ones that take our food, box it, can it, ship it, store it, pasteurize it, irradiate it, do all this crap to it, cook it at high temperatures, and we wonder why we're suffering with our health. Think about that. What are we doing? So the idea is, I'm not saying don't eat cooked food again. which you could do, and you would live a lot longer. But start eating fresher food. Learn how to grow sprouts. Get herbs going, basil and rosemary. You can grow these things in pot plants and have them growing like they grow like crazy. You can never eat all of it. And your food will start tasting better. It'll be fresher. And if you go to a restaurant and the food's really good, talk to the chef. They'll tell you, I put the freshest ingredients in. That's how chefs make the food taste so good. It's just fresh because it tastes better. So yeah, we really got to get back to fresh food. Then, get outside and get sunshine, get out in the forest, detox, de-stress, do all that kind of stuff. We could go on and on about this, but I just
Oh
want
my
to
gosh, yeah.
touch on a few of them.
We certainly could, because I'm thinking all the questions, but I'm like, our time is up, which is terrible. This has been so good today, and I really enjoy your wealth of knowledge around health. But also, I'm sure today you have inspired people to take better care of their health. And that's the whole point of the podcast. So, where can everybody get a hold of you on social media? Find your supplements that you talked about, and join a group coaching program?
Well, we put some stuff out on social media. I have Instagram and Facebook and that kind of stuff, but I'm not really active on it at all because they took away my live features because I talk about truth, freedom, and health all the time.
And
So I guess,
immunity.
yeah, they don't want to talk about
Natural immunity.
boosting the immune system. It seems to be a taboo deal. So I probably will be coming back on different platforms, but the best way to find us and me is that it's chemicalfreebody.com at our main website. I also have a podcast called The Health Hero Show. That's on there under Learn tab. There's podcast, and we have coaching. I lead a group coaching community every week. I have a special guest on once a month. I have our formulator, Dr. Scott Treadway, comes on every second Tuesday for Talk with the Doc, and the other 2 times is just solo with me. We usually do like a topic, and then we do a live Q&A. I do guided breath work. We mix everybody up into breakout rooms. They get to meet other people. It's a community. Because some people, like, let's say you're a lady and you decide to change your health, and your husband and kids are like, I ain't doing any of that crap, and then they're making fun of you, not supporting you. Sometimes you feel like on an island. So I created the community for support because all of us are just like, we get it. And we understand that society and the way everybody's conditioned is not working. Just look around. Everybody's dying of poor health and having crappy lives along the way. Who wants that? I want a high vibe life. I want to live my fullest potential. So that community is designed for that. Now, I would say this, if anybody does want to try our products, because I know they're freaking awesome, I would say go to the shop page and scroll down to savings bundles. That way you can get a discount, and you could start with like a little jumpstart bundle, which comes with a can of our greens and that gut detox, or I do what's called the total energy and detox bundle every month.
Mhm.
And I also take our adaptogens. So it doesn't matter where you start, but try something and see how it works for you. Give it some time. And we have a double your money back guarantee on all of our products because I know that they're based on engineering system science, and they're going to work for 98% of you up the middle. And they're actually going to do the job, and they're going to do it right. And there's not going to be any like diarrhea or any of that kind of stuff. So everything's set up for a gentle daily detox. But my podcast has a lot of free information there. So I give a lot away for free, but then how we make a living is we offer our supplements and our coaching. So that's how we do it.
So great. And we'll be sure to check that out. Make sure you reach out to Tim, let him know how much you enjoyed the podcast. And as always, you guys, keep on keeping on.